Good to go.
All right. Good evening. I would like to call to order the Wyndham Raymond School District Board of Directors meeting. It is 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, February 24th, 2021. We are in Zoom video conferencing. Mr. Howell?
Kate Bricks,
Here.
Jenny Butler,
Here.
Jenny Cummings,
Here.
Marge Gavoni,
Here.
Pete Hensler,
Here.
Anna Keeney,
Here.
Kate Levier,
Here.
Scott McLean, Christina Small,
Here.
Molly Cochran.
Here.
Okay, I'd like to introduce Al Potter, who is a sophomore at Wyndham High School. He will be leading the pledge for us. Will you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Al. Mr. Howell, are there any adjustments to the agenda?
There is one adjustment to the agenda tonight, which is the addition of a nomination for or an appointment for a new teaching position. This is a replacement position, and it's now become item 10 under appointments on the agenda.
Thank you. Okay, now it's time for public input, which is the opportunity for the public to comment on items which are not on the agenda. Mr. Potter, would you like to go?
Absolutely. I just have a quick plug. By the way, I'll introduce myself. I'm the class president for the class of 2023, which is this year's Wyndham High School sophomores. And right now we're doing some fundraisers to help pay for hopefully next year's proms, senior breakfast, cap and gown, things like that. Our fundraiser right now is a bottle drive, a St. Patty's Day themed bottle drive. So on March 21st from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., we are going to be collecting returnables at the Wyndham High School canopy. So if you could start collecting bottles now and bring them there, that would be great. If you're unable to make that date, you can bring your returnables anytime to Patman's Redemption and tell them it's for the class of 2023, and all of those proceeds will go directly to us. Thank you.
Thanks, Al. Becca?
Hi, everybody. Rebecca Cole, grade 1 teacher at Wyndham Primary School, Sebago East Shore EA President, NEA Board of Directors. I just wanted to take an opportunity to lift up and highlight the efforts of the folks in the Katahdin program. I know that they have continued providing some extraordinary experiences for their students, making sure that they stay engaged and connected. And I wanted to make sure that they knew that they were seen and appreciated.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then let's go to our first agenda item, which is the 21-22 budget presentation. Mr. Howell?
And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And can everybody see that okay? And board members, also, you have this in your packets electronically if that's you want to follow along that way. So honestly, I have to admit that presenting the budget this year in this format via Zoom instead of face-to-face is very, very different. This is always a chance for us to come together and to talk about what's happening within RSU 14, and also to talk about how the budget is going to go ahead and support those activities. It was almost exactly a year ago that we were in the Raymond broadcast portable, and I had an opportunity to go ahead and share the budget. And then following that, I think we also had some information on pre-K. So it's amazing tonight we're coming full circle, talking about the proposed budget and getting an update 1 year later on pre-K. For the public and for board members and for our administrators are here. You've been through budget processes with us before, and you know this is a journey. And this is a journey that starts tonight and will not finish until June 8th, when we have the opportunity for the public to weigh in on the budget. Tonight, I'm presenting version 4. I think last year we ended up finally with version 9. So we know this is going to be a process. And just wanted to quickly go through the timeline of what's going to be happening over the next couple months and how the community also can have an opportunity to weigh in, because at each one of these meetings, there will be opportunity for public comment, and we certainly want to hear the public's ideas and their thoughts and considerations as we work through budget. So tonight I'm presenting the budget, and I will officially be turning this over to our school board for your consideration. And then on March 3rd, 10th, 17th, and 24th, there'll be public budget presentations from all the different cost centers across the district. March 31st, if all goes well, we'll have an opportunity for additional public comment on the budget, and that's when the board will start deliberation. We've scheduled in April 7th as a board deliberation date, and then working to have the board vote on the budget for April 14th. And again, this is a journey. May 20th, typically in the past, we would have a public budget meeting where the community could come to the Wyndham High School auditorium, and we would vote on each of the different articles within the budget, and then have a chance to vote on local additional and then the full budget. That has been suspended again this year by executive order. And so on May 20th, instead of having that public meeting, there'll be a public question and answer session on the board approved budget, and the budget that the board approves will go to the public on June 8th for a public budget referendum. So plenty of opportunity for the public to weigh in on this, and also plenty of opportunity for the board to ask questions. Board members, your version 4 packets are ready to go. They're available in the office. I know some of you picked yours up today. If we need to work on arrangements to get those to you for next week's cost center, please let me know and we'll continue to work on that. The budget is our ultimate policy document. Really where we spend our money as a district shows what is it that we truly honor, what do we care about, and where our focus is. And if you look at our budget, majority of the money of what we actually receive from the public goes towards meeting the needs of students. This year is definitely a different budget year. We know that community-wise, that there are individuals in our communities who've been hit heavily financially by the pandemic, and we know that we've had business closures. We've also had a toll on mental health issues for students and staff, and how that impacts and families. So we know this budget is important. We know this budget is actually going to support those things. But as the administrative team and our directors came together and started looking at the budget, we kind of looked at it through the lens of some guiding questions, which is, how do we maintain diverse programming opportunities and multiple pathways for our students? We want to make sure that our students have options as they move through our high school and through our middle school and through our elementary schools. We want to make sure that we have the supports that are there. What resources do we need to maintain manageable class sizes at all levels? We've learned in this pandemic that class size does matter. And we've also learned over time that we need to make sure that we're maintaining those levels as what's recommended in some of the board guidelines. We approached the budget this year that we would be full in-person instruction for next year. And so what would it take for all the different safety and other opportunities and precautions that need to be put into place? But our budgeting was that. In addition, we've been budgeting that all of our students will be back. We know that we have some students that are in hybrid, we have students that are remote, and we have students that are in homeschool this year who aren't attending. And we also were aware of some families that chose not to start school this year and start next year. So that was always in the back of our mind. What's fiscally responsible for our two communities? We know that the schools, RSU 14 and Wyndham and Raymond, majority of the taxes collected actually go to our entities. And we know we need to be responsible fiscal stewards for those resources that we've been given and make sure that we're committing them to our students. And then also another piece which moves us forward with the emergent themes from our new strategic planning goals. And we are in the midst of strategic planning. Michelle Milstein from Great Schools Partnership has been working with us. In fact, there was a group that was meeting this afternoon working through some goals and working through some action steps and some strategies. But some of the draft core beliefs, which I think really line up well with what we're trying to accomplish through our budget. We have a core belief around equity, core belief around the whole child, that it's not just academics, it's also the social emotional pieces. Again, under equity, I shouldn't have skipped over this. We want to make sure that every member of our school community feels safe, valued, and achieves in a learning environment that encourages diverse perspectives. Student engagement. We want our students to be engaged in authentic, personalized learning experiences. I had a chance to work with Phil Rossetti and Beth Peavy this afternoon, looking at what are some action steps that we can do to increase that across the district. Staff engagement. We know if we're providing the best possible atmosphere for our staff and that we're providing them with everything that they need in a working environment that is inclusive, equitable, and welcoming, we know that they're going to achieve. And so how do we make sure that when we are planning our budget, it really is honoring the staff members who do all amazing work within RSU 14. Community engagement. We want our kids engaged in the community. This board's been a great supporter of a capstone project for years, and also through the elementary and middle school level of projects that get kids out in the community and supporting the community. We want to make sure that happens, and we also want to honor the work that our community's done. And I chose a picture down there, which is the volleyball net, which was given to us by some individuals in the community who saw a need, and in a very short period of time gave an outstanding resource to our high school students. And so that community engagement is so important. We also want to make sure that we're serving the community. And transferable 21st century skills. It's interesting, Christine Frost-Burtney did a bunch of focus groups with students from Windham High School. And kids recognize that school isn't just academics, that there are also some 21st century skills that they want to be productive, they want to be ready, and they recognize that they're going to need those skills to be successful when they leave our district. I also included this piece, which is, this is our COVID dashboard. It exists on our website. This was a picture that I took, I think I did this Monday morning. At the time on Monday, we had 64 cumulative cases in the district. We've now reached 69 cases with some additional ones that were reported this week. This was really in the forefront of our minds as we were working to develop our budget. I have to admit, and I know the educators that are on here, I think this has been one of the most difficult years professionally because there's been so many unknowns. And each one of these 64 cases also represents hundreds of individuals who've been quarantined. And that has played an emotional toll. And as we're planning in for next year, we want to make sure that not only are we taking care of the academic needs from students that are here and obviously through the end of this year, but social emotional needs of our staff and our students to make sure that they're fully supported. But I know the community has received numbers of letters. I added some facts over here on the right-hand side, the 69 cases to date. We've sent out 37 community updates, but there's been 874 quarantines, 737 student, 137 staff. I feel bad for Charlie Ortman. I think Charlie Ortman's been quarantined 3 times throughout this entire process. And that does start to take a toll. And so we want to make sure that the community knows that our staff are working really hard to make sure that we continue to deliver on that promise of meeting the needs of our students. And the other data that I included here, which I think is important because it's impacted our budget planning. And I'm proud of this, and I'm proud of our staff for their flexibility and their willingness to make this happen. These are the number of days closed for scheduled in-person instruction this year. And if you want to compare us to any other Class A high school, Class A school system with a school district our size, nobody else has met this with. Windham High School has only been closed 4 days for in-person instruction. And it really wasn't closed because the in-person, as soon as that happened, those staff moved right over into remote. And they did it in a very short period of time. Windham Middle School has been closed for a day. But all these other schools who've been hit just as hard with individual things have remained open. And again, that just is totally due to the work of our teaching staff and our support staff and our administrators on taking that attitude as how do we minimize the impact? How do we continue to support our kids? And how do we continue to support our community? But it's definitely a central theme through our budgeting because as we head into the fall, we want to make sure that we can continue to meet the needs of our students. We've had some great gifts this year, which have allowed us to stay open, and it's also allowed us to improve our facilities. And they've also had an impact on budget. And I've included in this slide here some of the COVID stimulus pots that we've received of funds. And so ESSER 1, which was our first one out of the CARES Act, was $335,000. CRF 1, which was 2.4 million, CRF 2, which is 2.5. And then most recently we received a second round under the CARES Act, ESSER 2 of 1.3 million, which we're still in the process of going ahead and working through. But those funds have been absolutely essential to meet the needs of our community. And I love the little guy in the upper right with technology. Technology and this board's commitment to technology over the years is actually what's allowed us to run a remote program, to run the hybrid days. Without that technology, we would not be where we're at. The meals van that's there, we've been able to purchase 3 of those through stimulus funding. Right before February vacation, Jeannie and Ryan served over 5,000 meals out of those vans. A year ago, if we said that that was going to happen, I would not have believed that that was even possible. Buses, we've been able to purchase additional buses, which has allowed us to maintain social distancing. The signage, over 8,000 signs being added across the district. The crane picture, that crane is actually handling an HVAC unit. And through those stimulus funds, we were able to add some increased ventilation at Wyndham Primary School, at Wyndham Middle School, and we were able to upgrade the filtration in all of our schools through those funds. And we're looking at additional HVAC and at additional air quality things through ESSER 2 to make sure that we're supporting. The little tablet that's there, our bus is going digital for contact tracing, because if you think every one of these cases we've talked about, to make sure that we know who's on the bus, who's not on the bus, and moving them forward. Pick some pictures for just kind of explaining, some of the things that people have done in COVID. So upper left, that's the outside the art room at Raymond Elementary School. I loved how the art teacher there included some masks on some of the portraits outside of her room. The center Zoom picture, our life is adapted to Zoom. I couldn't find a Zoom picture that I had that didn't involve kids that I didn't get permission to do. So that is a regional superintendent's meeting where everyone dressed up like Ken Coonan, who's the superintendent in South Portland for his retirement. The eagle with the mask, the meals that are there in the bags. In the middle there, Wyndham Middle School at a socially distanced mask break, all the kids out. The right-hand side, that's Wyndham girls basketball prior to quarantine, but how the benches are set up. The outdoor classrooms, the graduation that Ryan did in socially distanced. And then of course, how can you not do a budget presentation without having a picture of a T-Rex giving out books in a parking lot? And Julie Young and others from Wyndham Primary School organizing the book bus moving forward. Another piece that we don't often talk about, and I think it's good for the board to remember, is that in addition to all the different energy efficiencies and things that Bill's done, we've also been looking at some regional collaborative work. And we still belong to the Greater Sebago Education Alliance, the 11 districts working together to do efficient delivery of services. It is an additional revenue source for us. We receive $122,000 through our joining of this group. We've been doing professional development this year. All the building principals have been involved in now 2 years of a leadership academy. We've been doing shared purchasing. We do collaborative problem solving where we meet monthly to look at common issues. We're working on employee recruitment. And then we're also planning, we don't know if we'll need to do a virtual academy in the fall. And so we're looking to see, is that something we can do as a collaborative? and also looking at collaborative course offerings at the high school level, where we can have opportunities to share open seats, because we've become very, very good at Zoom, and we've become very good at using Google Classroom and Google Meets for delivery of instruction. And there's some interest in some high school teachers to explore sharing courses with others. And right now we actually have some Gorham kids that are attending Wyndham High School physics classes via Zoom because they weren't able to offer the course. And our high school physics teacher thought it would be important to include those students in his class. So a great opportunity. So I want to get into our budget, and I chose this picture. This picture was, I think, the first picture I sent after the consolidation vote was done. I sent this to some peers because I was so excited that we were getting to stay together as an RSU. My RSU 14 Success for All, so that we were staying together as Wyndham and Raymond. And this mug, I think, shows it all with being able to have that connection. And yeah, it looks like I'm still sporting the same glasses and have my school calendar there ready to go. But going into this is our FY22 budget. And again, this is version 4 that I'm sharing with you tonight. This is going to be a journey, and we're going to continue to work on this over the next coming months. We definitely have some budget challenges this year. When Stacy rolled over the budget, our initial open the door, which was year to year, was 7.9% increase. And we know that 7.9% increase is not something that we can actually move forward. We are in the midst of contract negotiations with 2 of our associations, which means that as we work through health insurance and work through salaries, that we still have some unknowns with that. And we won't have those numbers settled for a little bit. Other challenges that we have is we have a formula, the EPS formula, which is based on 2 things: valuation of towns, and is also based on pupil count. Southern Maine real estate market is very hot right now. It doesn't take long for a house to sell. Also, houses are selling for quite a bit over asking price. So when the state compares you for the EPS formula, it looks at what's the overall increase in the state, which this year was 4%. And the valuation for Wyndham and Raymond both went up 5%. So we outpaced EPS, which means in the state formula, they see that it's 2 different towns that have more money and that less subsidy could possibly come. Special education costs. We continue to have special education needs. We continue to have move-ins for the quality of the special education program that's here, which is great. But it means some of the programming and things that we need to work on to meet the needs of students, that it becomes more costly. And also with out-of-district placements, and with a recent change in legislation now that has us, with not legislation, but guidance from the DOE, which has us with students now through age 22. Some of the students who have out-of-district placements that would have aged out at 20 are now aging out at 22. So it adds an additional cost. And we always want to make sure that we're looking at student needs. Enrollments this year, enrollments have been a difficult thing to be able to structure and to follow in this particular budget cycle. Believe it or not, we are up close to 90 or so students in our enrollments, which is great when you look at a formula that does students and valuation. That does not include the 104 or 5 families that have left RSU 14 for this year to go ahead and do homeschooling. And we're expecting those students back. So in addition to just having students move in for the quality of the education, we have students that we are expecting to come back after the homeschooling. Health insurance, regular increases that we have each year always create a challenge. They always outpace other percentage increases that we run into for other goods. And that last piece, which I just talked about, COVID enrollments, that we have students that are homeschooling, we have students that are remote, and we have students that are hybrid. This is a best guess, and that's why I put the star there for Wyndham Raymond Schools enrollment. The 2020-21 number is solid. That's a solid number. The projection for 21-22 includes obviously all the move-ins for this year, but also includes the projection of having individuals who are coming back from homeschooling, and also a projection for individuals, because we know of a few families that chose not to have this year be their kindergarten year, but to start a year later. And so looking at the bottom there, 2021, looking at 3133, so a little over 3,100 students to almost 3,200 students projected at the end of the year. Also want to point out to you at the middle level for Wyndham Middle School, the 6th grade bubble that has kind of worked its way through. We're starting to see a reduction in the population at Wyndham Middle School. So dropping from 668 students to 631. Everywhere else across the district, high school is going to see an increase because of the bubble coming through. And then Wyndham Primary School and RES seeing increases as well through kindergarten populations. But the good news is that we, unlike other places in the state where populations are declining, we're continuing to see steady growth in our enrollments. So here we are. This is FY22 version 4. That original Open the Door, which was close to 8%, that currently we are at 4.88% increase. And it's up a little bit over 2.4 million from last year. And I thought it would be helpful for the public to put this number into perspective and per pupil, because here's how we fall with our neighbors. RSU 14, which is right there in the middle. So state average for per pupil expenditures is right around 12,400. RSU 14 is under that at 12,294. And then below us in our neighbors, we have Gorham, Westbrook, and SAD 6. Gorham, which is typically close to us in funding. Gorham has the benefit of sharing some town services with having their central office in their municipal building. In addition, some of their parks and recs and working on their fields. There's some connections there, but Cumberland being the highest in our area, SAD 6 being the lowest. So yes, it's going to be a over a $50 million budget, but if you look at where we're spending per pupil, it shows that we are a very efficient organization, and how we use those funds and how we target those funds for the students that are in our district. So some significant budget changes that are included in the budget, and the board will be hearing more about these in each of the presentations. Wyndham Middle School, we're proposing the reduction of 1 teacher, and that's due to specifically to a reduction in enrollments. At Wyndham Primary School, the addition of 0.2 art teacher, 0.4 music teacher, and a 0.2 physical education teacher. This is as we've looked across the buildings and have looked at specials that we offer, the rotation of specials, the amount of prep time and support time that we can give, looking at how do we make that consistent and give consistent opportunity for students and for staff at those grade levels at the elementary level. So the additions there. At Raymond Elementary School, adding some ed tech support and looking at the special schedule. And I made a mistake here. This should not say Manchester School. It should say Jordan Small Middle School. And I'll correct that prior to this being posted on the website. Jordan Small, which has a full-time nurse, that position, that person has left, and the nurses have met and they feel comfortable with an LPN or a nurse tech in that, given the population in Raymond. And then athletics, an addition of an esports program, which is computer-based sports, computer-based gaming. It is an MPA sanctioned sport. The picture there is the last public meeting that we had as RSU 14 on March 5th of last year, before we headed into the initial shutdown, the initial lockdown with COVID. And that's why you see all the people in that picture without masks. And Marge, I know you're on this right now. There's Dave in that picture. Dave was predicting a shutdown in the next couple of weeks when that particular picture was taken. So he actually predicted it well. Budget history, just to give you an idea of where we've been as a district over the years. Roughly our budget increase averaged over all the years that we've been in RSU is around 2.8%. And last year's budget finalized at 4.6. and this year coming in proposing at 488. Some good news with our budget this year, and that is within state subsidy. And if you look at the years 17, 18, and 19, we saw some significant decreases in our state subsidy and what we had to support students. But in FY20 and 21, we've seen some increases, and then 22, a $974,000 increase in our subsidy due directly to special education costs that are now being reimbursed by the state. There's a lag time between when those costs are incurred and when they're reimbursed. And so now we're starting to see those in your formula. And board members, you remember a couple budgets ago where we had some significant increases in special education and in some support transportation for them. That's why you're starting to see some of the increases that are happening. Expenses by category. A majority of the pie there in the orange and in the blue, that's direct instruction, direct support of our students. You can see around 12% facilities maintenance, 6% transportation, school admin, 5.7%, system admin, 2.9%, student staff support, 9%, other instruction. I think it's also important to point out to the community is CTE is not on there, even though it's one of the cost centers. The reason why it isn't is that the state changed their formula a couple of years ago, and now CTE funding goes directly to the CTE centers, those vocational centers. In the past, it was a flow through the districts, and so the district would then be billed. We would receive those funds, and then we would pay them to the CTE center. Now it's just a direct payment. So that's why you don't see CTE on there. I think it was the #1 question I received last year when I had my budget documents sent out to the community. It's important to know that, yes, we believe in CTE, we believe in the importance of it, and just to know that those funds are being transferred elsewhere. And then revenue. The green area is what's required by the state for us to generate for revenue in order to receive our subsidy. That darker blue is our state subsidy, and then tuition from other students, carryover that we put in, and then local additional. Those are the funds over the basic formula of EPS that each of the districts contribute towards the RSU 14 budget. I think it's important, before I go to my last slide, to also mention to the board, remember that we do the budget kind of in two sides of the house. One's an expense side, one's a revenue side. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be spending a lot of time on the expense side, but we'll continue to, as we work, keep you all informed about revenues and how those revenues will ultimately offset those expenses. I want to end with this picture. This is our pre-K program. I think this picture has made it to every single presentation. I found it in the district achievement report. I think it's going to be in the pre-K presentation tonight. I love the second kid there with his eyes up, like, let's get going here. Kids in their muddy buddies getting ready to go out to recess. The pre-K program has been an amazing, amazing program, and in addition to RSU 14. I wish it was something that we had the space to be able to add for all of our students. I know tonight we'll have a chance to learn a little bit more about it from Christine and some of the teachers that have been working up there. But I think it's been one of the most exciting things that's come out of our budget. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing for a minute. Again, budget books for board members, they're available here in the office. Next week will be the first week where we get a chance to delve into the expense side. You'll have a chance to ask questions that you have about the budget, and we start our journey. But it's an exciting journey. And it's also a journey that's going to have a huge impact on our students and our staff and our community, and ultimately to the quality of education and support that we can provide to all of our students. So I'm going to end it right there, Ms. Cummings, and turn it over for the next item.
Thank you very much. Great presentation, and good to see those little pre-K faces as they begin their journey at RSU 14. Okay, next I'd like to invite Mr. Howell to discuss the Wyndham Middle School construction update.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again through the magic of television. Wyndham Middle School, we are going to be building a new building, and I think the community has been waiting this to happen for quite a while. And about a month ago, we received the phone call to say that this project is officially moving forward. The committee that worked on this put in several applications, one of which I think originally ranked Wyndham Middle School, I think is 42nd in priority in the state. And in the most recent set of rankings actually was ranked as 5th in the state as far as needy projects. And so tonight I want to spend a little bit of time and just a short presentation on what this means for the board, some next steps that are going to be coming up, and also for the board to and the community to know that things are already in motion, and that we've already started the process of getting a building ready to go. And just for everyone to know, this is a drawn out process. It's not like we're going to see groundbreaking next year. The bond date, which we've been given by the state, which is when our debt would start, is 2024. So probably the earliest, unless we do some local funding, is going to be 2024 before we go shovel to ground. So we have plenty of time to plan and to process, but in the meantime, there's some things that we need to get moving on. So I'm going to first of all start with the role of the school board. Because when I received the phone call to go ahead and say, you know, we need to get this project going, two things were given to us. One was to start advertising for an architect, and we're going to talk about that in a second. And the other piece was to start putting together a building committee. And there's a very specific charge in statute, and this is Title 20A, subsection 15902, which talks about there's two ways that a building committee can be established. One is that the legislative body, which is the people of Wyndham and Raymond, can hold a special meeting and they can put a building committee together, and they can actually work on a school construction project. That project needs to be approved by the local board, but they have that ability. And the second clause there, which is what I've underlined, if the legislative body does not establish a special building committee, the school board shall act as the building committee and may delegate the powers and duties of the building committee to the superintendent. That's not a model that I want to have the board move in that direction of. I think it's important for such a project as this that the board serve as that building committee and have the opportunity to make those decisions. So in talking to facilities committee and in also talking to board leadership, we realized that there are kind of a couple elements that a building committee needs to do. One is that they need to make some big decisions. And those big decisions are things like who's going to be the architect for this project and who's going to lead us through those architectural renderings and drawings and plans. So that's a big decision. Second decision is who is actually going to serve as the general contractor on this project. That's an important decision that a school committee needs to make as that building committee. Another important decision is to make a recommendation to the community for their vote. Where is this building going to sit? That's an important recommendation for the larger committee to do. Selecting what color tiles are going to be in the bathroom. Determining if a change order where one classroom, which met a hallway, needs to move over a little bit, is not something that I think we can have our regular school board sitting in and making those decisions. The other thing it does is it makes it very, very difficult when many of these decisions have to be done in a short time frame to be able to then wait every 2 weeks for a board meeting for that decision to make. So the process which is used in districts for school projects is the board makes those big decisions. Architect, contractor, location, makes those recommendations. And typically a building committee, which is a subcommittee of the board, is established, which includes community members, educators, teachers, support staff, administrators, directors. Those individuals meet a little bit more frequently and they make some of the other decisions that are the day-to-day decisions on what happens within the project. So facilities met last week during the middle of vacation week. I think we met on Wednesday and started to work on that process of developing what a building committee might look like. I just want to go on the steps here before I go into some more details here. So board members, don't worry about printing this out. There's a 11 by 17 copy within your board packets so that you can kind of fully look at this. School construction is actually, it's a 21-step process. And over towards the left-hand side, which is, there's an application, evaluation, project rating, and designer selection. That's where we are. Somewhere in 25 or 26, and that's school year 25 or school year 26, we'll be over on step 21. So it's a long process, has a number of individuals that are involved along the way. Look at it this way. So major capital improvement steps, and this is the first 7. Application to the program that was done back a while ago in 2016, that's checked off, that's done. A site team came, evaluated that application that was done, that's done. Project priority list development, that part's done. And now we're on step 4, which is selecting the designer, selecting the architectural services. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the process of how that's going to happen. After that, we're going to have to go through with our architect a new versus renovation analysis to make sure that in fact we need to do a new building and we just can't do a renovation. There'll need to be a site review, a public hearing on site selection, and then ultimately a site selection, because where's this thing going to go? And how big is it? What's the site? What are going to be some of the supporting pieces for it? And then a process which is called educational specifications. And educational specifications, think of it like the vision. What is it that you want for the building? And when we first learned that we had the opportunity to build a building, one of the things that our architect, Lyndon Keck, who had worked with PDT and had built several of the buildings within the district, had said, while you're waiting for all these things to happen, you can actually start working on educational specifications. And so Wyndham Middle School and Jordan Small participated with Frank Locker, and many of you met Frank a couple, actually it was almost a year ago when Frank worked through some facility studies and met with the board. But what Frank has done is starting to work on some visions and some designs for how does staff envision the educational process in these buildings. And so we've had teams of middle school teachers from both Wyndham Middle School and Jordan Small looking at how we can actually structure the building. For the Wyndham Middle School side, Wyndham Middle School is creating a new building. For the Jordan Small side, they're looking at how do we take Jordan Small and how do we take some of these planning ideas and put it into that building. And so we're going to be having Frank come meet with the board at some point to go over the vision and those ed specs so that we can, the board can have a better understanding as that work goes forward. So next step for you, number 1, we need the board to establish a subcommittee for the building project, and that should happen in early March. And as part of that, you will be developing a charge. Actually, Bill Stockmeyer is going to help us with that as well, but developing a charge to the subcommittee for roles and responsibility. What is it that committee is going to be responsible for? What's the mechanism for informing the board? And that committee will be composed of board members, parents, community members, teachers, administrators, and directors, so that we have a good cross-section as we start to move and make those decisions. The second thing the board's going to need to do is select an architectural firm for the project. We're expecting that to be somewhere in early June. Bill sent out a request for qualifications package, which is how the state works through our bidding, not for bidding, but for qualifying architects. That went out in the papers and out in the community in early February. We're expecting that every major architectural firm in Maine will be interested in our project based upon where construction is right now and on the timeline. Those qualifications packets are due on March 24th to the superintendent's office. And that building committee will need some time to review all of those packets and all those packages to then make a recommendation to the full board for their approval. So a lot of things going on, and it was amazing to me is that we waited 3 years for someone to say go, and when someone said go, it's a sprint to get a couple first steps done. But it's an exciting thing, and for communities that receive a state-funded project, this is a huge, huge asset to the community, because you're probably looking somewhere in the neighborhood of a $60 to $75 million project being funded by the state. So will be something that will impact RSU 14 for years to come, and also may help us with some of our overcrowding issues in all of our buildings as we look to make this open. I think the last thing to mention is this project does not involve closing of Jordan Small, changing grades of Jordan Small. Jordan Small will continue to exist as a middle school, and the educators at Jordan Small have some wonderful ideas on how to integrate some of the things that have been discussed in visioning within that building. So I'm going to stop there, Jenny, and come back to full screen. Bill, I'm not sure if you have anything to add or if there's any additional questions.
You covered everything very well, Chris.
Does anybody have any questions about this process or where we are, or? Okay, seeing no hands. I'd like to thank you again, Chris, for 2 huge presentations and a lot of talking. So thanks. We're now up to the RSU 14 pre-K program. So Christine Frost-Bertinet, will you give us some insight?
Absolutely, thank you. Very excited to share updates with you all this evening, the board and the public and staff joining, and our students here tonight. It has been a very exciting program to roll out here in RSU 14. And so in a moment, I'll be introducing the pre-K team. But before I do that, I want to share with you some creative thinking that we did early on. How would we support the program, get off the ground, and provide the level of professional development and support and collaboration that we know is really critical to staff as they're developing a new program and understanding the curriculum design. So we partnered with the Maine Department of Ed, Nicole Medor, who I believe you folks have all met a couple of times now, the early childhood specialist, as well as Marcy Whitcomb, who partners with Nicole to do some professional development across the state. And via Zoom meetings, we came together through the months of October and December. We had 4 sessions that we met with the DOE folks, and we talked a lot about observation tools and essential look-fors in a high-performing pre-K program. We talked about the curriculum design, the pre-K for Me curriculum, and reviewed it with the staff and determined what needs they had for support or clarification around the curriculum or program. We talked about how we would report out on learner progress, classroom management with COVID considerations in mind, what that was like, trying to have 4-year-olds with masks and social distancing and the realities of that in the classroom. So we would problem solve. We talked about professional development opportunities across the state. We decided to, instead of having folks come visit because of COVID and provide feedback based on classroom observations, we used the owls, a couple owl cameras we purchased with CRF funds, and the teachers and support staff had the owl in the classroom and selected a slice of a lesson and that they sent off to Nicole and Marcy for feedback. So we rejoined together. Nicole and Marcy watched the video and provided feedback, and we had an opportunity to debrief as a team. And we also talked about outdoor learning and the wonderful Raymond Elementary School campus with outdoor classrooms and the trail system, and how we could get pre-K students out in those muddy buddy suits, as Mr. Howell spoke about earlier. How do we really embrace the outdoors and engage learners in outdoor programming? And so that was a great opportunity for me and I believe Beth as well, Principal Peavy, to come together and work with the pre-K teachers and educational technicians and collaborate with some experts from the state. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to this incredible team, blown away by their work this year. It's really been remarkable. So Beth Peavy will be introducing them a bit more, but we have Caitlin Cashman is one of our pre-K teachers, and she partners with Jason Hammond, who's the educational technician. So they collaborate in one pre-K room. And then we have Kate Tompkins, who's the second pre-K teacher who collaborates with Tanya Bell, the other educational teacher. And it really is a partnership. So without further ado, Beth Peavy.
Thank you. I want to first thank some people because without their assistance, and one person is Christine Burtonay. She came on board last year and she approached me and Mr. Crockett and asked if we would be willing to entertain bringing pre-K. When I started a few years ago, that was the one thing I was hoping for in this building. So she was our little spark that helped us to move forward and bring in these little 4-year-olds for both Wyndham and Raymond 4-year-olds into our school. The school board for supporting bringing in our pre-K program and valuing the importance of early education. And as Mr. Howell said, it would be lovely to be able to have a universal pre-K. So hopefully someday we'll be able to reach that goal. Also for the community, thanking them because they passed the budget last year. And because we passed the budget, we were able to have our pre-K in our building as well. And our parents for entrusting us with their little 4-year-olds walking in this building in a year called COVID, and with all our guidelines. And, you know, there was a lot of worries, and our teachers did a fabulous job with outside meetings with the parents to reassure them that the transition would be smooth, and it has been. It really has felt like this program has always been here. The teachers work well together with the support staff. They're like their own little family. They collaborate, they're creative, and the 4-year-olds are resilient. And, you know, just today I was in a class observing, and just the love of learning that they have is so very hands-on. It's a very language-rich program, cross-curricular, you know, they're learning about science, but they have math, and they're listening to a story that ties it all in. And our teachers do a fabulous job going outside, taking the kids outside and exploring the environment in their little muddy buddy suits, which one day maybe we'll get the adult version, one for Mr. Howell on his Christmas. You know, so the transition has been seamless, and I am so proud to have them in our building. And I'm so proud to have these little 4-year-olds that are Wyndham students transitioning to kindergarten at Wyndham Primary School. The pre-K program is amazing, as Mr. Howell said, it really is. And so we are going to watch a video. Gary Harriman, our videographer for the district, spent a day in the pre-K classrooms and created this video so you can get a glimpse of what it's like in the pre-K classrooms. And then after that, Ms. Tompkins and Mrs. Cashman will speak to their programming, and they have a little slideshow to also present. And then you'll have time for questions and answers afterwards.
Okay, let me cue up the video here.
As you can see, they are busy inside the school, outside the school, climbing, enjoying the environment, learning, and just part of our community. Now we're going to have Mrs. Cashman and Mrs. Tompkins. So we'll cue the slideshow and they will do their own little presentation, and afterwards we'll have questions and answers.
Okay, 1 second. Can you see that okay?
Yes, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I'm Caitlin. I'm one of the preschool teachers at Raymond Elementary. I am so excited to share with you a little bit more about the program and kind of going a little bit deeper into what our curriculum is about. So if you go to the next slide, Christine. There is meet the team. I'm on the top left, that's me. And underneath is Mr. Jason Hammond. He is my ed tech in our classroom and his beautiful family. On the top right, we have Kate Tompkins, who is the other preschool teacher, and Tanya Bell's right below her, and she is the ed tech in that classroom. We really are a team working together. We collaborate, we collaborate to create lessons, brainstorming new creative ways to implement ideas and explore concepts with the Pre-K for Me curriculum. And I don't know if many people know much about the curriculum, so we're kind of going a little bit deeper about what it is and how we implement it into the classroom. So it is 6 units. It's each unit is spanned over a 5-week time frame. We just finished unit 3, wind and water. It studied weather, its impact on humans and animals. We explored scientific concepts. It provided opportunities for conducting research and showing various ways to represent their learning. The curriculum kind of guides us in our lessons and activities, the different vocabulary to use, and provides guiding questions to promote further thinking. The main focus of the curriculum is really our center choices. This is in the morning, and it takes a big chunk of our day. This is very student-led. This is where students can explore the concepts with materials provided independently or collaboratively. Right here, we have our first center choice, manipulatives. And to kind of talk about our center choices a little bit more, I'm going to hand it over to Kate real quick so she can give you a little bit more of a breakdown of what these center choices are like.
Okay, thank you, Caitlin. I am Kate Tompkins. I am the other pre-K teacher at Raymond Elementary. And this center, we've given you about 4 different centers just to kind of highlight what we do. This is our manipulative center. And in this center, we teach hands-on learning and early math skills to support students. So we use a lot of manipulatives, a lot of sensory play, and really focus on that play-based and hands-on learning to learn those skills. So you can see here, we're doing some cave counting in our hibernation unit. Not only are they counting the bears, but they also independently started sorting them by color. So a lot of the learning that is done is organic. We just introduce the concept and they kind of go with it and take it in different directions. In the center, we learned about animals and habitats. So they're matching the animals to their skins. And then there's also a component where they have the figures to go along with it. So then we did recipes, puzzles, counting, and use a lot of those fine motor pincer grasp skills as well. So with the next slide, I believe we have our Discovery Center. This the children love probably the most besides our Dramatic Play Center, but they get to do a lot of hands-on exploration. A lot of science experiments happen here. We experimented with ice melting, with rain clouds. They got to see the raindrops go through and how the clouds actually work. They created boats. They've created animal habitats here, and that kind of crosses over because we do habitats in blocks. They also do them in Discovery. We explored pumpkins, so a lot of hands-on things going on here. Okay, and then art. We have a lot of artistic, crafty kids with us this year. We have explored paper mache. We have done a lot of stamping. Not only are we painting with brushes, but we're also using sponges, tin foil, a lot of different materials, acorn painting. And we do painting at the easel. We do projects at the table. And in the last picture there, they are painting some large boxes that are going to become our washer and dryer in our dramatic play center. So they carries over into that center as well. And in blocks, it's a lot more than just blocks going on. So we have some recycled materials that we made towers, and they got to see if balancing and how high they could build it. We discovered ramps, gears, and also in those other pictures, they created their own habitats. We gave them recycled materials. We gave them what we call our beautiful stuff. And they went to town making their different habitats. So they had fun exploring those. And dramatic play, probably besides Discovery Center, this is the most popular with the children. We have opened a pizzeria this year, a bakery. We are now onto a laundromat. They've learned how to be cashiers and buy groceries. And they've also built caves and supported our hibernation unit that way. This week we are starting our next unit, and they are doing laundry, which you can see here. She's, I believe, ironing, and we will be getting out stains, which in our Discovery Center, and taking them to the Dramatic Play Center as well. So, and the barbershop. So there is a lot going on, and a lot of hands-on learning. And with that, I'm going to take it back over to Caitlin so she can explain the rest of our day.
Thank you, Kate. So the rest of our day, we're looking at, we do small group and large group activities. These are a little bit more teacher directed. In our small groups, usually it can be between, 4 to 5 students in a group. This is a chance for them to work independent and honing on specific skills such as the fine motor, cutting, pencil grip, finger pinch strength. But this is also an opportunity for them to work collaboratively, not just working with a partner, but working with within a small group. So more than just one other person. So that's more personalities, more suggestions and ideas coming to the table. So on the top right, you see we have 3 friends who are having to work together to create using beautiful stuff. We used a lot of beautiful stuff, a lot of donations this year. It was amazing to create their own gingerbread man. And in that moment, they're having conversations with each other. They're asking, can you pass me this? Or I need that. Or, like, where should we put this? Do you think that the gingerbread should have a belt? So they're all talking and communicating and having discussions and trying to create something together. In our large group activities, we go a little bit deeper in a lot of the concepts that we're learning. For example, with scientific experiments, we actually do our version of a scientific method where the students go, I wonder, and they pose a question. What are they wondering about? For example, that picture on the top middle, we're learning about absorb and repel. So I wonder if this object will absorb water or repel water. Then they go, I think, I predict. So they're going to make an educated guess. And these are all vocabulary terms that we use in the classroom, and they use as well. They use these words too. And so they make a guess based on what they already know. Then I see, they test it, see what happens and observe. Then I know, they record the results. So here they tested to see if it absorbed or repelled, and to record the results. If it repelled, they put it in the red bucket. If it absorbed, they put it in, I think it was a yellow bucket. Another opportunity for large group is working on our social emotional. We really focus on emotions and feelings, how we're feeling, being able to identify that, being able to identify other people's feelings and emotions, working on group plans, and all this vernacular that we use and we try to continuously incorporate into the classroom so that they can understand it and use it as well. So in the bottom right, we have a child who is actually listening to music, Tito Puente, and he is watercoloring his emotions. How does the music make him feel? And so he's getting to explore not only how this music makes him feel, but how to portray that using watercolor, the different strokes, the different colors that he uses. Also in large group, we go outside. We love going outside. Rain, snow, sunshine, it doesn't matter. We've been talking about Muddy Buddies. You get to see them. They're on the bottom center picture is our Muddy Buddies, and they are fantastic. I think if you're going to get adult sizes, all 4 of us need some too. Because we go out there with them, splashing in puddles and everything. If it's snowing, you know, there's the picture of us doing a math activity outside in the snow, or we're going on a nature walk and it's sunny outside. We love going outside because those are really truly some authentic learning experiences out there, because in the classroom we can predict a lot what's going to happen, but out in nature you can't. And so these kids, they're going around and they're seeing so much, they're experiencing so much with their different sensories, and they are naturally inquiring. So we could be learning about one thing and then they see like a caterpillar or a bat box on a tree. What's that? Or what kind of animal is that? What kind of leaf is that? Why is that there? And then we take that opportunity and we explore it even further. We always want to make sure that their questions get explored, because that's so important in the pre-K curriculum, and it lends itself to have those opportunities as well. If you go on to the next slide, another big component is our phonics program. This is a new program. It's separate from pre-K for me. It's the Jolly Phonics. In this program, we are actually working on, it's more sound-based. So instead of identifying what the letter is and what sound it makes, for example, the letter C makes a k sound. What we do is we show them the C and we're going straight to the sound. So they're not having to go from one to the next to the next. So we hold it up and they're like, oh, that's k, or that's s. And each sound has a story, has a song, and has a gesture. So it's really honed in and it makes it a little bit fun and different each time. And with them being able to identify the sounds automatically, they're starting to realize that these letters make words. When they had that discovery, I remember Mrs. Tompkins running into my classroom going, oh, they're so excited. They figured out that these letters make words and they want to know what these words are. And so already we're seeing them blending sounds together. In the center picture, we have Mr. Jason with his puppet Mogu. I hope I'm saying that right, Mr. Jason, who's very hungry, and we have to feed him. And so we have different objects on the table, but we don't know what to feed him. We have to figure it out. And so we give them each a sound. We break the sounds. I think we can see it's cat. It might be cat right there. And so, you know, what's this sound? K, ah, t. And then we start blending it all together, and they blend it and they come up with the word. It's cat. And so they have to find the cat and feed it to Mogu. So already we're seeing these kids really wanting to learn and read. And it's amazing how far they've already come with this Jolly Phonics program. I can't go off about it enough of how amazing it is. So to really wrap up with the pre-K program, I just want to say that even though, you know, it looks and feels a little bit different this year with the challenges of COVID and everything, this program is absolutely what the kids needed. Not only have we seen growth in each child, we are witnessing such a passion for learning. I mean, these students, they want to be in school. They love coming in and learning new things each and every day, and we love being with them. So we're so, so grateful to have this program, and just want to say thank you for letting us be a part of something just truly special.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you for that eye-opening, wonderful presentation and a glimpse into your classroom. Does anyone have any questions? Any eye wonders, I think?
Trying to.
Or any comments?
Sorry, I'm turning on my camera.
Hi, Scott.
Sorry, I couldn't click the button fast enough.
That's okay.
So I do wonder, with all of these kiddos that are having a positive experience in your school, Beth, how many of these Wyndham kiddos do you think might actually be transitioning to RES for kindergarten next year? I'm wondering if the balance might actually start to be reset a little bit between the populations of the 2 middle schools in the district.
Do you mean, so are Wyndham 4-year-olds parents requesting to stay at Raymond?
That's what I'm kind of curious about, and if that might be a trend that we may see, probably until we won't see it until the summer, but
Right.
you know.
Well, I've only had really one parent approach me so far. And so we do look at numbers coming in to kindergarten for our Raymond students to see, if we can honor that transfer to stay here at Raymond. We probably won't know until the end of the year. I'm sure parents are not thinking at that point where they'd like them to be, but definitely we'll collaborate with Dr. Rhodes and Diana Jordan in having a smooth transition for the 4-year-olds to enter at Wyndham Primary School.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anna, do you want to go?
Now I couldn't find my unmute button. I don't have a question for you guys, but I'm just incredibly thankful for your enthusiasm and your obvious love for our kids. I think back to when my kids were little and this kind of program wasn't available, but what a difference it would have made had it been. So I think it's really amazing. And I want to thank too the parents that are sending their kids to pre-K in a year that's unlike any other. That was a brave decision. And I thank you so much for trusting our district with your kids in a time when we didn't really know what was going on in the world outside. So thank you for trusting us to provide a safe and educational environment for them. That's it's wonderful. And we're very appreciative.
I would like to second that. I was very excited to see their excitement, the kids' excitement, and your excitement about what they're doing. I really appreciate the work that you're doing, and all that you're giving our kids. I also appreciate the parents and the rest of the staff for welcoming this little family to RES. So that's terrific. I had a couple of questions, and that was, how long do the centers last?
Unmute myself here. The centers that we looked at they go for almost an hour in the morning. It really, it depends on how quickly you finish breakfast. And Caitlin has a little bit different schedule than I do in the morning, but yeah, it's usually 50 minutes to an hour for the center time, because we do want to give them that time to explore and not feel like they didn't have enough time. And sometimes if we see that they haven't had enough time, we'll extend the activity so that they can explore it further.
So do they move from center to center at will, or how do they move from center to center?
Yes. We, at the beginning of the year, we did a little differently, and we saw them as they evolved. And they do move. Part of the pre-K for me curriculum is that they are allowed to move at will. Each center has a maximum number of people that can be in it at one time. So if they can't go to that center at that time because it's full, we have a wait list, and they know now. They just ask, can I be put on the wait list? And that wait list will extend over to the next day. So if they don't get a chance or an opportunity that day, they'll get a chance. They'll be the first one on the list to come in the next time. So
that's great. That's cool. And I'm very glad to see that you're using Tita Puentes.
Oh my gosh, they loved that activity. They really did.
He was so great. And if you ever see it, he's gone now, but he was wonderful in concert. So
yeah, we did that activity, and Charlie Parker as well. So
yes. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Good. I like that. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't find my hand.
Great.
I raised my hand. Thank you for that presentation. It was really impressive. I'm excited that you're excited, and pictures really make it become real.
Yes.
I'm wondering if either Beth or Christine or whoever can just a thumbnail sketch of the lottery process to get into this program, because it's only 2 classes, correct?
Correct. 16 students in each class.
Right.
Christine, do you want to speak to the lottery process?
Yeah, sorry, I was taking notes. Happy to do so. So we have gone ahead and published a local paper and on the website. We did the same time frame as the kindergarten registration process this year. So parents can find 2 buttons on the homepage of the website. Those interested in pre-K, click on the pre-K lottery application button. That will take them to a form that they will submit their interest in consideration for the pre-K program. That is a blind lottery process. So what will happen is that in April, we will be gathering all of those, and without knowledge of who they are, we will shuffle everyone up and start the selection process for the 32 spaces. 24 of those spaces will be for Wyndham residents, and 8 of those spaces will be for Raymond residents. That is tied to the numbers of incoming kindergarten classes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? I think we're all amazed at how, what a great glimpse you've given us into their day, and your excitement is infectious. So thank you very much. I wish that we could come in and see you, but
Yeah. Next year.
next year, that would be great. All right, thanks again. We're going to move on to a motion about Maine Medical Partners. So Pete, will you give us that motion, please?
I move that the superintendent be authorized to execute an agreement for athletic trainer services with Maine Medical Partners substantially in the form presented to this meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by Pete, second by Kate. Bricks, any public comment on the motion? Any board comment? Okay, all those in favor?
Kate Bricks,
Yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Janie Cummings,
Aye.
Marge Cavoni,
Yes.
Pete Hensler,
Aye.
Anna Keeney,
Yes.
Kate Levier,
Yes.
Scott McLean,
Yay.
and Christina Small.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Marge, will you do the motion for the appointment, please?
I will. I move to approve the following appointment for the 2020-2021 school year. Excuse me. Amber McKenzie, special education teacher, Wyndham High School, bachelor's step 0, at a salary of $39,524, prorated to $15,809.
I need a second.
Second.
Jenny, second. It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment on the motion? Any board discussion? All those in favor?
Kate Bricks,
Yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Janie Cummings,
Aye.
Marge Cavoni,
Yes.
Pete Hensler,
Aye.
Anna Keeney,
Yes.
Kate Levier,
Yes.
Scott McLean,
Yay.
Christina Small.
Yes.
Okay, Kate Levier,
I move to approve the minutes of the January 20th, 2021 meeting.
Second.
been moved by Kate, seconded by Pete. Any public comment? Any board discussion? All those in favor?
Kate Bricks,
Yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Janie Cummings,
Aye.
Marge Cavoni,
Yes.
Pete Hensler,
Aye.
Anna Keeney,
Yes.
Kate Levier,
Yes.
Scott McLean,
Yay.
Christina Small.
Yes.
Motion carries. Committee reports. Any committee?
So finance didn't have a meeting, but we do have on March the 11th, a meeting scheduled. We've reached out to ask a representative of the Wyndham Town Council and a representative of the Raymond Select Board to join with us and to express any feedback, concerns, thoughts on the cost sharing formula. So that meeting is going to happen on March the 11th, and I'll be happy to report out on it after that is done.
Thanks. Facilities?
Facilities met last Wednesday. I believe it was Wednesday. We discussed about the Wyndham Middle School Building Committee. And Chris touched on that earlier this evening. And we will, I believe, Chris, that is a agenda item that we will be voting on next week as a board. Am I missing something, Chris? I feel like I'm missing something. I got distracted because I think somebody is here right now.
No, that's everything, Scott, that we.
Okay.
Thank you. Policy?
Policy will be meeting on Friday with the nurses. As you may know, we have an immunization of students policy, which was approved actually back in 2009 when we consolidated, and we have been advised from Drummond and Woodsum that it needs to be revised based on legal requirements that will come into effect on September 2021. We're well ahead of the game, but we'll be meeting to discuss this and seek the input of all the nurses.
Thank you. Curriculum is meeting next week with the administrators, and then we will be reporting out, and we'll be meeting with teachers about math soon. Okay, now, anybody else have any thing to talk about March? Okay. Now it's time for the superintendent's report.
Of course, I'm muted, so
Of course.
talking to my screen. So a couple things I want to share tonight. Just again, want to reiterate what Pete talked about. March 11th, Finance Committee is going to be meeting with, I think it's going to be the chair from the Select Board and the chair from the Wyndham Town Council to talk about the cost sharing formula and whether or not the committee's had a chance to look at it, but to get that feedback, and then the board ultimately need to make a decision whether or not to recommend any changes to that formula. So that will be coming up. Christine Hessler has met with the regional representatives on the school calendar, and in the very near future, I'll be connecting with the associations and also connecting with board leadership about the calendar so that we can get some input on it prior to bringing that forward. Some of the equity and diversity work that has been going on in the district over this past year. We've had a couple days, actually the first one in October, where we had a whole district opportunity to come together with some workshop sessions, one of which Becca led for us, and Christine also led one for us. We're having the opportunity again to have Lawrence Alexander back to meet with individuals of the district and to explore issues and to also explore some readings that looking at everything from curriculum to how different students may feel in the district based upon their background and where they're at, all based on the idea that every student, every individual, every staff member in the district should feel welcome and should feel safe, and that work continues. And Christine Frost-Burtonay has done an outstanding job working with a group to help plan that day. Also as part of that day, and I just thought it was important for some feedback, we will be doing a survey with staff and giving them some time to give some thoughtful thoughts, and specifically want to know from them what's going well, what are things that they could use some supports, and then also I'm very curious to hear from them experiences that they've had in this year of COVID. What are some things that they want to hold on to, and what are some things that they never ever want to see again? And so having that opportunity for some feedback and giving some good quality time for individuals to spend with that. Also, just want to quickly update the public, the revolving renovation projects. Bill has been working with several of the architectural firms, actually 4 different firms, on the Wyndham Middle School project, on the Jordan Small project, the Raymond Elementary School project, and I can't remember the other one that I'm missing. It might have been actually the Field Allen project. And we will have some additional things hopefully coming to facilities soon, as far as starting to get some ideas of when pricing might go out for those projects. One thing we are hearing from our architects and also from the contractors that they're using, first of all, as everyone knows, construction prices right now are have skyrocketed. And in addition to that, the availability of materials, simple things like door hardware, where you could get in 2 to 3 weeks, is now taking 12 to 14 weeks to get those things in. So quite a bit going on with that. Bill was on here earlier. Actually, Bill's still there. Just want to thank Bill for, he's juggling quite a bit, keeping these projects moving forward, and still working on that timeline that we've been giving the state to get those things done. So it's the first week back from February vacation. We'll start March next week. We'll be into budget next week, and before all we know it, it will be April vacation. And we are obviously in the midst of planning for how we finish out the rest of the year. And in the very near future, we will be getting together the steering committee that helped with the school reopening plan, getting some feedback for this year, and then also starting to look at what's next year going to look like. And so invites will be going out for those meetings probably by the end of next week. So a lot of things going on, a lot of transition things happening. And we know this is a time of year where things start to accelerate.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks everybody who is here. I really appreciate your input. We're now going to go into executive session. Christina, could I have a?
Madam Chair,
Yes,
we actually skipped over board roundtable.
I apologize. I was so excited to get to superintendent's report that I skipped over that. Man, board roundtable then.
I just want to take the chance to thank Rich Drummond. He's received a lot of kudos, as he should. But with volleyball in particular, volleyball got bumped during the fall, and it became what they call a wedge season, kind of fit in between some of the winter and the spring sports. And Rich has gone out of his way to make sure that students that are doing, for instance, my daughter that's doing swimming and volleyball, and then had plans to move into softball, he's really going out of his way to work with all of the coaches and all the students to really try to accommodate so that they can participate in all things and not have those awkward conversations of, I've got to skip your practice because I've got practice already scheduled on these things. So it's a lot to juggle, and I think Rich does a great job. So I just wanted to say thank you.
That's great. Thanks. Anyone else? I apologize again. I must just leap over it. All right, now Christina, could I have?
Jenny's got her hand up.
Jenny, Jenny?
Sorry. Last week during vacation, I happened to see a ski friend who also teaches at Jordan Small Middle School. I just asked her how her school year was going in general. And of course, she tells me about a math project that her students were doing. And it sounded really, really, really cool. They were doing geometry, 7th graders. They ended up in the shop lab. So they made puzzles and they did all kinds of really cool geometry applications with it.
Oh,
So
cool.
she sent me the presentation, essentially a put together slideshow, etc., of what they did. And I haven't had a chance to look at it yet because it was sent late this afternoon. So if with her permission, I will send it to the board just so you can see the really cool stuff that they were doing. Really nice.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Oh, Anna Keeney.
You gave me long enough to think about it. I just wanted to mention the 8th graders at Jordan Small Middle School this week had the opportunity via Zoom to spend some time with and speak to a man by the name of Rudy, whose last name I'm not going to remember or do justice to, but he is a Holocaust survivor that took the time to speak with the kids about his experiences and his life. And that was an amazing opportunity that I really love that we found a way to make happen even in weird times. So I just wanted to mention that was a really awesome thing the kids at Jordan Small got to do. And I thought I'd give just a heads up to 8th grade parents because my daughter came home with her first list of high school class choices. So it's happening, guys. Keep your eyes open, ask questions, look for those papers.
That's
Janie,
great.
I forgot one thing in my superintendent's report, and I always like to bring things full circle. As we speak right now, Wyndham Chamber Singers are practicing in the auditorium.
Yay!
First time they've been together since would have been a year ago, March, and guidance has now been lessened to allow them to be able to do that. They are double and triple masking. They're following distancing. They're they're leaving the room and allow for ventilation and air turnover. But the kids met together tonight for the very first time. And I wanted to mention that as first thing and I skipped over it. So
See, can happen to anyone. Thanks, everyone. Okay, now Christina.
You sure?
I hope so.
I move to enter into executive session to discuss RSU 14 contract negotiations with the RSU 14 Board of Directors pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 4056D and not turn to regular meeting.
Second,
Who seconded?
Pete,
Okay. So, all those in favor?
Kate Bricks,
Yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Jenny Cummings,
Aye.
Marge Gavoni,
Yes.
Pete Hensler,
aye.
Anna Keeney,
Yes.
Kate Levier,
Yes.
Scott McLean,
Yay.
and Christina Small.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all.